There is one more week left of games in American Conference League play, which means next week we will actually have lots of answers for you. But for right now, we have to break down tiebreaker scenarios and so many other things before we even get there. I'm Maria Trivelpiece. That's Kyle Youmans. This is All American. I said a lot already, but there's a lot more that we have to talk about.
Oh, my goodness. This is going to be one of my favorite shows of the entire year because we asked for chaos and we got it. And that's exactly what we're going to try and explain to you. Yes, we are going to talk through the tiebreaker scenarios. Yes, we're going to preview the upcoming matchups. Yes, we're going to give you some top plays of the week. And yes, we're going to talk about sports other than football. We're going to go to the volleyball court today as well. There's a lot coming up on All-American. Stick with us. But let's start by just taking a look at the football standings, shall we? Let's just see what's happening here. And if you might notice, we go into the final week of the regular season with 3 teams, not 2, not 1, but 3 teams with 1 loss. Then if you notice, just below those 1-loss teams, there are 2 teams, South Florida and East Carolina, who have 2 losses to their table this year. So 5 teams with an opportunity, should everything go right, to make it to the American Conference Championship Game. Craziness across the board whenever it comes to the American Conference, and we wouldn't want to have it any other way.
No, I think this is what makes college football so much fun, is that when you get down to the last week of the regular season, there is still so much hope alive for 5 teams in the American, and chaos can ensue and happen, and we're going to break down how that can happen.
Okay, so let's talk about it. This is the order of the tiebreakers, head-to-head, if those teams played against each other. And that, of course, can go across multiple teams. Let's say all 3 teams tie. You can have different maneuverings of the head-to-head there. If that's not available and not every team plays, then it goes to the college football playoff rankings, which right now, of course, after Week 13 comes to a close, only Tulane was in the college football playoff top 25. North Texas right outside looking in. Navy right outside looking in. So we'll see exactly what the committee wants to do to put them in for the Week 14 college football playoff rankings. And then after that, it goes straight into computer metrics, which is the computer metrics are a combined source of multiple metrics that are used throughout college football. So it's all pushed together into one metric that will decide who would either host or who would be in the American Conference Championship Game if everybody ends up in a tie. Here are the teams that could possibly get there. Tulane, North Texas, Navy, all with 1 loss. South Florida and East Carolina, both an outside shot, but both still technically with an opportunity to work their way in as one of the second teams in the mix. The 3 1-loss teams, you kind of look at it, you could possibly see all 3 of them hosting if some craziness happens, even if South Florida and ECU get in. But really, it's all going to rely on the college football playoff rankings, and then it's going to rely on what the metrics say if 2 of those 1-loss teams do fall. So it would have to take Tulane, North Texas, and Navy to even give a chance for South Florida and East Carolina to get into the fold.
So that's the simple version of it, and we can get into all of the scenarios for individual teams. We're not going to do that here, but that's the summary of it. The bottom line is that there's already been a ton of chaos. If more chaos ensues, we'll go back to that graphic and we'll have to break it all down for
We'll be right back next week and explain this is how we got here.
This is how we got here. So until that time, that's what we have for you right now. And if the teams who are 6-1 do their job and win out, they put themselves in a good position to be in the championship game or host the championship game. But as we've seen this entire year, that might not happen.
It very well could not happen. You're right. Tulane faces Charlotte. North Texas plays Temple. Navy plays Memphis. Those are the 3 1-loss teams. And right now, because of North Texas's win over Navy earlier this year and then Tulane not playing either one of those 2 teams, if all 3 teams win out, it looks like, depending on what the college football playoff ranking does look like ahead of time, it looks like it would be Tulane hosting North Texas. That's kind of the scenario that we look at as the most likely scenario. But even with that being said, things can be upended very quickly, and we've seen in this conference that you cannot write out any teams. UAB beating Memphis and different I mean, UTSA beating East Carolina last week, which we're going to talk about here in a minute too.
Not just beating them by a lot. Yeah.
So anything can happen, but we do want to give you kind of the likelihood of what's going to happen. And right now it looks like it would be Tulane hosting North Texas as long as those teams take care of business.
And taking care of business is exactly what Tulane did this week. So they head to Temple. We were unsure, will the cold affect the Green Wave? Nope. They're 9-2 overall and 6-1 in conference play for the 4th straight season. John Summerall has this group clicking at the right time. They did everything that they needed to do to beat that Temple Owls team on senior day in Philadelphia, and they remain in the driver's seat in the American to possibly host the conference championship game.
Yeah, out of those 5 teams that we just mentioned with a shot to possibly win or to go to an American Conference Championship game, 4 of them were looking at Temple and saying, please do us a favor and knock off the Tulane Green Wave. And early on, it was all Tulane, and they started fast. They kept their foot on a gas. Again, like we talked about throughout the year, Temple doesn't turn the football over, but Tulane didn't really need the extra possessions. They were methodical on offense. They dominated the line of scrimmage, and then even after some early back and forth, the big play happened. Look at this big one over the top. Of course, this touchdown where you're able to walk into the end zone. Jake Retzloff was throwing touchdown passes to everybody. He had 21 for 28 passing, 231 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a touchdown run on the ground as well. They answered every opportunity that Temple had to make this a ball game. Temple goes down. They score on the big play over the top to the tight end to make it a one-possession game. But then from that point forward, it was all Green Wave. And like I said, they kept their foot on the gas. Retzloff was dealing. And then, of course, he finds the pylon with his legs as well.
I was really impressed with Tulane this weekend because all season long, we know how good of a football team they could be.
Yeah.
And there were moments this year where I was like, you're playing with your food. You know, you're letting teams in that you should be beating by a lot. And you're doing it by either struggling in the red zone or by not doing the little things that help you make that big play. And I think they finally played like the football team that, not finally, they've been slowly doing it each week and finding ways to win, but they did all the little things right, and it was a complete team effort too. And I think that if you're a Green Wave fan, this is what you want to see at this point in the season.
They're playing their best football right now. Ever since that loss on the road at the Alamo, they have turned things around entirely, and they're playing complete football. They're not making a ton of mistakes. Their defense was steady. Chris Rogers led the defense. He had 8 tackles. Jordan Norman had 3 tackles, including a pair of sacks. The only real big mistake Temple made as in terms of a turnover was on that lateral drill at the end of the second quarter when they were trying to just desperately find points, and that was almost recovered by, or it was recovered by Javion White, and he almost took it 37 yards for a touchdown scoop and score. So even through all the craziness there, Temple didn't make mistakes, but the defense stood strong. And then also special teams. Can we give credit to Patrick Durkin, the kicker, who had 5 field goals? I mean, he had to ice up the leg after the game, a couple of 50-yarders plus. Give credit to the special teams unit as well. So when you're looking for offense, check. Defense, check. Special teams, absolutely. Tulane took care of business, take down Temple. Now they've got a shot to go to their fourth straight conference title game.
Yep.
The 4th straight. Death, Texas, and Tulane making something happen in the month of November. It's really impressive what they've done, and it's through 2 different coaching staffs.
And I think that's the part that impresses me the most, because you have that change in coaches. I forget that John Summerall's first year at Tulane was last year.
I know, it's wild. It feels like he's been there forever.
Yes, and I always have to remind myself that, because he just kind of picked up where the last coaching staff left off. And I think that's one of the harder things, especially in today's era of college football, where so many people either go with the new coach or a new coach is coming in, so everybody leaves. We've seen it impact a lot of teams in the American. And so the fact that Summerall can just step in, do what he's able to do, and continue to have the success. Also, too, at points of the season where we weren't really talking about the Green Wave enough, because maybe they dropped a game here or there and we're like,
they didn't look good.
Yeah, and we were just like, I don't know. And here they are making us look silly again and saying, hey, we have a really good chance not only to be in the conference championship game, but to host it.
You know what? I blame John Summerall for that. I blame Summerall because if Coach Summerall did not say what he had said about this is just not a good football team, we're winning games, but we're not a good football team early in the year, then I think maybe we would look at it and say, oh, wow, look, Tulane's sticking around with one loss, and they keep winning these games. Hey, they're finding a way to get it out and squeak it out. Not the case. Now they're winning games big time. And then even when they got ranked last week, Summerall goes, wow, there's not a lot of good football being played across the country because we're not one of the top 20. Yes, you are. Tulane is one of the top 25 teams in the country, and you got to believe it, and I think they do in that locker room. I know what Summerall's saying is mostly tongue-in-cheek, but at the same time, I do believe this is a complete team. We said it at the beginning of the year that they were a contender all the way from the jump. They just got to piece it all together, and I think they're starting to do that.
They're starting to, and then they have Charlotte this week, and I think they have a really good opportunity to win that game, especially with the way that they've been playing as of late. They're clicking in all three phases of the game, and so I think if they can do that against Charlotte, just take care of business, they'll be in a really good spot.
I do not expect Tulane to lose this game. It's just they're the better team, top to bottom on the roster. I will say, don't count out the 49ers. And I'm saying that seriously. I really am. Because there are two things that you can win with in college football: talent and desperation. And you've got talent on the Tulane side. So plain and simple, they've got better talent. But there is a lot of desperation on the Charlotte side. They do not want to go winless in conference play. And so this is their last shot at it. It's senior day. It's at Charlotte. You got a lot of things on the line there. I think it's in New Orleans. But even with all that being said, I still think Charlotte has to play their best football if they hope to not have a 0 in that win column. It's going to be a uphill battle for the 49ers. Tulane should take care of business, especially with it being at Gilman Stadium. Excuse me for my misspeak there. But this is still a chance for Charlotte to prove that they belong, and so far they haven't.
Yeah, and it's a game that you're going to want to tune into because whether it's a big upset for Charlotte or it determines possibly where the champ game can be. So that's one that we'll have circled on the calendar. But let's talk about one of the teams that you love in this conference.
Yep.
And a team that is having a historic season, the North Texas Mean Green.
How about this? Last week they were breaking records by being the first North Texas team ranked in the AP Top 25 since 1959. Now they go back another dozen years further and get their first 10-win season since 1947. They're putting up 50 burgers like it's nothing. I ran my 5.6 miles.
Gonna ask?
Yeah, I did. I've got it done. 5.6 miles, most points on the road since 1962 as well. I mean, we're talking about like way back. This is historic stuff, things that we've never seen, stuff our parents never seen from this North Texas Mean Green program. And let's get it totally straight. Rice came ready to play.
Absolutely.
In this football game. I want to give a lot of credit to the Rice Owls. They were clean early. Chase Jenkins was fantastic. He made the right reads. The speed was ready to roll. We talked about that last week, that misdirection was going to challenge North Texas defensively, who's down a couple players at different levels. They were challenged, and the Owls took charge with their system and with their smarts. No pun intended when it's talking about Rice and how smart they are. But North Texas did what they needed to do, and they made adjustments on defense. And when they made the adjustments on defense, Drew Mestemaker and Wyatt Young connected on this big play early, got on the board, and from that point, the floodgates opened. 42 unanswered points, and it took just 28 minutes and 28 seconds of game time to put up 42 unanswered. North Texas, in that span, outgained Rice 510 to 110. That's unreal. You talk about offense and firepower, and I don't care who you're playing. You could be running routes on air for all that I care. Doing what they did against Rice was impressive, and it shows again why they are indeed a college football playoff contender.
I'm going to talk about North Texas in 1 second, especially after you just dropped all of the stats. But I do want to echo what you said, and I want to give credit to Scott Abel and this team because what they've been able to do this year has been very impressive.
Absolutely.
And they're one win away from a bowl game, and I think that you saw that early in this game because when you talk about desperation, they need one more victory. So I want to give credit to what's going on in Houston. Now let's talk about North Texas because I think the one thing for me is that they are just never out of a game because you talk about how quickly they can get on you. And once those floodgates open and you have Drew Mestemaker playing with confidence, which he is one of the most confident quarterbacks I've seen, especially a quarterback who hasn't started since ninth grade in high school, which is phenomenal. But I think the way that they get on you so quickly and then you just can't stop them is something that has helped them so much if they do make the conference championship game. I think that's what I'm really excited to see because they're going to be playing defenses in this conference that they've had not a lot of trouble with throughout the year,
Mm-hmm.
will whoever their opponent is in that conference championship game, if they make it, give them problems. I don't know.
It's going to be tough.
I don't know how you give that offense problems.
Nobody has. That's why they're the number one
Yes.
scoring offense in the country. Nobody has. Even in the one game that they lost was to South Florida. North Texas still put up 36 points.
Yep.
And so I get it. There's a lot of question marks around the defense right now, and for good reason. I mean, the one game they lost, they gave up 63 points. They're banged up in a couple different areas. They're missing one of their best linebackers. They're missing a solid edge rusher. There's a couple guys on that defense that I think they need back or would love to have back that aren't going to be back. But when the offense is doing what they're doing, 50-plus points for the sixth time this season, I want to give credit to Doug Waters and the North Texas Stats Information Department here, because this is really a cool stat. North Texas is one of 10 teams nationally with a point differential of plus 200. Would you like to hear the other names of those teams that are plus 200?
Let's hear it.
Indiana. They're a college football playoff team. Texas Tech, college football playoff team. Ohio State, college football playoff team. Oregon, same. Notre Dame, same. Miami, possibly. Toledo, they're kind of on the outside looking in. James Madison, who, of course, is a team that has been in the conversation as well, and Utah. Those are some really good teams to be in the conversation with, and North Texas is right there with them. They are dominating their competition. They're doing it in different ways. They're one of only 2 FBS teams with a 3,000-yard passer, a 1,000-yard rusher, and a 1,000-yard receiver. Only San Jose State and UConn have done that, and on Saturday, North Texas joins the list as well. So it's incredible to do what they're doing. Wyatt Young's been one of the best receivers in all of college football, not just this year, but in the American Conference's history. How about that? Single game leaders. He's beaten some of the top names we've ever talked about.
He broke the record in the American for single game receiving
And he
yards.
did it on 8 receptions.
Eight catches, 295
That's
yards.
unreal.
Wild. Incredible. We talked about records being broken in Denton, Texas. I mean, this one was not in Denton, but talked about records being broken within the American. Here's Wyatt Young doing it again for the Mean Green. It's just incredible with this offense. We talk about Drew Messamaker all the time. How about Wyatt Young?
Yeah, that's the thing, is he needs to get a lot of the praise and a lot of the credit too. We've talked about Messamaker. We've talked about Caleb Hawkins, the freshman running back, who again had 3 more touchdowns in this game. But when you've got an extra weapon, you've got an extra guy like Wyatt Young, and he's not the only one. They have 3 or 4 receivers that they really do trust. But when Wyatt Young goes off like he did against Rice, it's hard to win football games when you're giving up 295 receiving yards to a single guy, and that's exactly what it did. Really, really impressive stuff across the board, and it was a fun game to watch. Now, they take on Temple this week. Maria, what are your keys for North Texas to remain with that one loss?
Okay, so this game is interesting to me because I think North Texas's offense needs to continue to do what they've been doing, utilizing all their weapons, relying on that pass game, but also we've seen the run game in Caleb Hawkins as well.
Yep.
So that's my biggest key. Here's where I think North Texas can get caught up, and this is what I need them to not do if they want to win this game, is the defensive coordinator at North Texas is a guy by the name of Skyler Cassity, who we talked about a lot on this show. His former school was Sam Houston, where he was underneath the head coach by the name of K.C. Keeler.
Yes, he was.
Who is now the head coach at Temple. Whoa, I know, right? Wild. We've talked about this on All-American before, but my point is will K.C. Keeler be able to game plan well against his former defensive coordinator? And we just talked about the defense of North Texas struggling a little bit. Temple does a really good job offensively of just doing the little things right, taking care of the football, and just executing. And so I think for me, that North Texas defense needs to be able to play against a team that might know their scheme a little bit better than maybe some of the other coaches that they played. And that might not make any difference at all, and they might beat them.
But it might make a difference.
But it might. It's just like a little nugget that could impact the game.
And I think that'll be talked about, I'm sure, throughout the week and throughout the broadcast. I'm sure it'll be a big topic of conversation. But I think at the end of the day, if North Texas takes care of the football, then they'll be fine, because Temple forces takeaways and Temple does not give it away. So as long as North Texas takes care of the football and they have an even number of possessions, I think North Texas has the firepower to win that game and win it running away. Back at Daku Stadium, you're back at home. You get your senior day as well as Temple comes to town. Remember, this was a close game last year, and it was roles reversed.
Yeah.
North Texas started 5-1. They were at 5-6 going into the final week of the regular season, needed a win to become bowl eligible against Temple. But now it's Temple that's at 5-6, and they need a win after losing a couple straight to get into a bowl game and to really cap off what has been a great first year underneath K.C. Keeler. So I'm interested in it. Of course, we've got it circled just like we do the Tulane game as well. But we've had this next game circled for quite some time, all the way back to the schedule release. You'll see why a little bit later on in the show. But we've had this game scheduled for quite some time. Navy and Memphis. It still has lore. It still has the fun of a Thanksgiving showdown between two of the best teams in the conference. Memphis hasn't necessarily held up their end of the bargain as we thought they would. This, going into the year, was possibly a conference title decider on who was going to be. And it still could be for Navy, but just not for Memphis. Kind of a weird feeling going into it for the Tigers.
I think when we circled it back in March, it was because of exactly what you said. We thought these two teams could be competing for an American Conference Championship. Navy needs some help to get into the American title game if both North Texas and Tulane win. But they need to win this game to even be considered to be, unless full chaos ensues. But overall, they need to win this game to even be talked about to get into that championship game. The thing that stands out to me about it now, looking at it once everything has happened in this regular season that's gone on, it gives me the vibes of like Memphis last year on Thanksgiving, where they couldn't make the conference championship game again. But they said, you know what? We don't want Tulane to host it. So let's just beat them and beat them handily and just ruin their chances of hosting. And even though we can't get in the conference championship game. So I think that if you're Navy, you have to be careful of that because Memphis still has a lot to play for in this one. And Navy, you need this win to compete for a title.
Yeah, Navy, of course, they have gone 1-2 the last 3 weeks. They've lost 2 of their last 3. However, they're coming off of a bye week, and they're coming off of the toughest 3 games on their entire schedule. And that's the biggest thing. They didn't look great against North Texas. They didn't look great against Notre Dame, but then they turned it around. They had that phenomenal performance against South Florida that kept them in the conversation. So who are you going to get this week against the Memphis team? Are you going to get the team that defeated South Florida and got off to a great start? Or are you going to get the team that got kind of pushed around a little bit by Notre Dame and North Texas? Whereas Memphis, like you said, they're playing for pride on the other side and maybe for some jobs, like on the field and off the field. I'm not talking about coaching staff or anything. I'm more so just talking about roles within the program. You're coaching and you're playing for your specific role in order to take care of business. So with all of that being said, they're a team that has not been in the territory of 3 losses in quite some time. Even last year when they were eliminated from play, they were still working with just a couple losses. But to be in a realm of 4 losses with that program and the amount of resources that they have thrown in there for Coach Silverfield and company, they need this win to close out their regular season and to still tab it as a really good year for Memphis Tigers football. It's been a fun series back and forth. Remember this game last year, 56-44, the back and forth and the craziness where Navy defeated Memphis and gave them their first real upset loss of the year after Memphis was really up in the top 25 conversation as well. They've gone back and forth over the last 10 years since Navy became an American Conference opponent. So lots of fun here. My key for Navy, just like I said, you got to start fast again, like you did against South Florida. Get off to a hot start, score early, force an early turnover, and then score again if you possibly can. Whereas for Memphis, I went back and looked at it a little bit, their last couple games where they've kind of pitter-pattered down the stretch here. I want their offensive line to play better. I think they're better than they have been playing up front on the offensive line. And I said that early in the year. I always gave credit to the big guys for the Memphis Tigers because they always were able to run the ball and they were able to protect Brandon Lewis back behind center. So with all that being said, I think Malachi Breland and Travis Burke have been solid throughout the year, just from everything that I was watching. Outside of that, Pro Football Focus, I went back to see what their grades were for all of the 250 top linemen in the college football ranks. Those two, Breland and Burke, are the only 2 ranked inside the top 50 for Memphis, where most teams have, if you're a really good football team, have 3 or 4. So the fact that they didn't have that, I think it just kind of shows where I want that Memphis offensive line to build to. Doesn't mean that they're bad, and I don't think they're bad. I think they're a really good offensive line. I just want to see them control the line of scrimmage and win that against Navy. Because if you don't, then Navy's going to be able to execute on the offensive side, or on the defensive side, the way that they want to, and that allows their offense more opportunities to take advantage.
And I think that's the key for Navy, too, is just having that offense clicking and playing at the highest level that they can, because you saw even in that win against South Florida when Horvath got hurt, Braxton Woodson came in and did a great job. And so I think that not only for Memphis are you getting, not for Memphis, you need to be able to do well offensively, because that Navy offense is going to punch you no matter who's playing. And I think a whole week off, the bye week, get healthy.
Play a factor.
Yeah, for sure. So
let's talk about South Florida a little bit. They got back on track in a big way.
Yes.
Kind of anticipated that from South Florida. You didn't really know exactly what you were going to get, but what they did get was their most wins since 2017 when they went 10-2. One regular season game remaining, and, of course, a bowl game. They're trying to get back to that 10-win season for just the third time in program history. So they could possibly get there. They got to win their next two, including defeat Rice, who is another team that is trying to make it to a bowl game.
Yeah.
So you got to go up against that desperation that I talked about earlier. What did you see from what South Florida put on tape against UAB as they just took care of business, 48-14 over the Blazers?
Well, I think it's something that we've seen South Florida do a lot, is when they lose a game, they don't let it spiral into multiple games. And I think that they knew that they had an opportunity to beat this UAB team and keep their season at a place where they can feel proud of it, and also keep them in that conversation, because as we talked about at the beginning of the show, it would take a lot, but they're still not out of that title game running. So I think that you need to win the games that you're supposed to, and this was one that they needed to win. And so I think for me, just they played South Florida football. The defense looked solid. The offense, again, was clicking. Byron Brown just did Byron Brown things. Every time
He's
I look at his
so good.
Every time I look at his stat line, I'm like, are you serious? So I think that's what stood out to me the most, is just the way that they rebounded and just went back to, what they're supposed to do offensively and defensively, and won the game that they needed to.
UAB fought early. They did a good job early. They were up 10-7 midway through the second quarter. So it took a little bit for the Bulls to wake up. Maybe it was the carryover from the loss. Maybe it was the lack of motivation going up in front of kind of an empty stadium there in Birmingham. You're on the road. You just saw your conference title hopes dashed significantly. Your college football playoff hopes dashed entirely. I mean, maybe it just took a little bit. But when it did wake up, Maria, it was back to Bulls football. 544 yards on offense. They had 3 interceptions on the defensive side. Entered the game number 4 nationally in total offense, and they showed that off across the board. I also think it's funny because their 7th game with 500 or more yards, their 6th with 40 or more points. And we talk about North Texas's offense just because they're a couple ranks above it. People forget about just how impressive this offense is for South Florida. But Byron Brown's the one that makes it all go. I mean, continued his season, second straight 300-yard passing game. He had 19 of 25 passing, season high, 353 yards, and he just continues to set new program records. 11th 200-yard or better passing game on the year. 11. You know how many games they've played?
How many?
11. I mean, that's insane what he continues to do. And he's still one of the top offensive threats in all of college football. And then also, how about Ruben at the wide receiver position? Multiple plays of over 50 yards or more, had a couple touchdowns in the game too. So I contended this early. I will say it again. The Bulls are one of the top talents in all of Group of 5 football. It's just unfortunate that they dropped a couple of these games late and they don't get to enjoy the fruits of their labor and what Alex Golish has built there down in South Florida.
I couldn't agree more. They every time you watch them, even in the games that they lose,
they
look so everything, like all of the little details that people preach when they're trying to get their teams to play at the highest level, they do, and then they make the big plays too. So it's hard to kind of wrap your head around it, how they're not one of those one-loss teams, because even in the losses, they still look like one of the best teams in the conference. They are one of the best teams in the conference.
The Navy loss felt that way. I mean, if they somehow squeak their way into the American Conference Championship, I don't know how I would pick against them.
It's
I really
hard
don't.
Not to, right?
Because they're going to be even more recharged up for that just by getting a second crack at it all. But, yeah, still a long way to go there. They're taking on Rice this week, who, of course, needs a win. And then and Rice ended up beating them last year at the end of the season, if you remember. That kind of a game that was a sleeper game that wasn't really paid attention to a whole lot. Rice is trying to recreate that a little bit and get to a bowl game, whereas South Florida needs to win and then have multiple teams lose in front of them to even have a shot at the championship.
You know, one thing that you just said about if South Florida does find their way into the championship game, you wouldn't pick against them.
I don't think I would.
You know what I would
no
never,
matter who they're playing.
You know what I would never pick against?
What's that?
Anybody playing in the Alamo Dome.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
I like when they go to UTSA playing home in the Alamo Dome, because what they did to East Carolina this past weekend, look at that stat, 23-0 at home in conference games under Jeff Traylor.
Before we go to the highlight, I'm going to ask Zach if he can put me back on camera here. I just have one more thing here that I would like to add about teams playing in the Alamo Dome. At first, this was a joke. At first, it was kind of, wow, this is crazy. These are some great numbers. Winning 23 conference games in a row at home is pretty impressive. I'm now convinced that it's dark magic and that Jeff Traylor is somehow piecing together some sort of spell that affects opposing conference players as they cross the threshold of outside of the Alamo Dome in San Antonio to inside the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. So I would like to just put out a questionnaire for those that have been in the Alamo Dome that are opponents. And what happened? Did you feel like a change in your mentality? Did you feel a change in your health? Is there something that we need to start investigating as a conference and as a country to figure out why Jeff Traylor just continues to win football games in conference play at home, no matter who the opponent is? Because there were two teams that had American Conference title hopes on the line that have come to the Alamo Dome the last two times that UTSA has played in a conference game at the Alamo Dome. You want to know what happened to both of them?
What happened
They
to
got
both of them?
smacked around is what happened.
Yes,
and
they
East
did.
Carolina got absolutely smacked around, which doesn't happen. The
No.
East Carolina Pirates don't lose like that, and
Nope.
they lost in the Alamo Dome. Now we can get into the highlights here. Thank you for allowing me to plead to the country here, Zach. But this was one of the more impressive performances, again, that we've seen from UTSA. They put up 31 unanswered points to start the game.
And the other thing, too, was the defense as well. There were some picks in this
Yes.
game. I think that it's just like complete team effort, and it's not only the skill and what is happening physically, it's just the swagger and confidence that you see from UTSA, and not only the swagger and confidence from them. Again, when you're to your point about dark magic, like the dejected body language from opposing teams is absurd, because we've seen, when we talk about East Carolina, we saw Tulane, how good of football teams they are, and UTSA in the Alamo Dome looks like a top 5 FBS team in the country playing a bad high school opponent every time. And it's funny because we said going into this game, you never know what happens in the Alamo Dome. But look at that score right there. It's 44-3 at this point.
Now,
And-
Anthony Smith's still a really good football player.
Yes, and East Carolina is a very good football team, but
Yeah.
I'm just at a loss because I don't know if there's voodoo dolls. I don't know. We asked Jeff Traylor about it at Media Day, and he seemed to not have an answer. He's like, "Oh, we're good at home." Why?
He probably doesn't have an answer because he doesn't want to tell you the
I know,
answer.
that's okay. I mean, credit to UTSA, because I just can't wrap my head around it, because it's not that they're just like slightly beating opponents
No.
in the Alamo Dome. They are just obliterating opponents in the Alamo Dome.
Absolutely. The defense was incredible early. I'm glad you brought that up, because Shad Banks, it felt like he was all over the field. Of course, they had the fumble recoveries and the punts forced in the first half. You have the interception return for the touchdown there. That was Banks again. I mean, he's just maybe it just all clicks for the defensive unit. That was a new look unit going into the year. It all kind of pieces together in the Alamo Dome. I really don't have an answer, and I don't know if Jeff Traylor has an answer. They defend their home field better than anybody else in the American Conference. It is the dome of death for anybody that wants to go in there and have any kind of success. And I feel for you, ECU, even though they still have a shot at the title game. I feel for them because they've had an incredible year.
Absolutely.
Their fans are phenomenal. The atmosphere in Greenville has been just so good, but you can't survive the dome. right now. And I'm sorry for – I feel bad for the Pirates. I really do. And Owen McCown, I want to give him a lot of credit too.
Yes.
24 of 33 passing, 248 yards, but he found 9 different receivers. He got the ball to 9 different receivers. And what did we say early in the year when it was all Robert Henry Jr. as the only legitimate playmaker on offense?
We needed to see Owen McCown.
Wanted to see Owen McCown. And one of the other things I said is you wanted to see him spread the ball around to some of those other playmakers, the tight ends, the wide receivers, the running backs. How about Will Henderson?
The last two weeks,
games.
Yes, he's been phenomenal. Like he just looks, the more games he's gotten under his belt, he just looks more confident, because we've talked so much about Robert Henry and rightfully so, but now he's stepping up as well. And now you have multiple options.
Yep.
And it's crazy because this is almost identical to what UTSA did last season.
Played their best football in the final month of the regular season.
Yep. And it's funny because Jeff Traylor talks about it too, and he's like, I wish I could figure out how to get my team to play how they do it the later half in the earlier parts of the season. But man, they look like a really good football team right now.
They really do, and it's good to see them back to that point. Now, they do take on Army. Army trying to get to a bowl game as well. They're kind of sitting on that 5th win. They have been for a little bit of time as well. What do you anticipate out of this matchup this week?
Oh, it's really hard because I feel like you can't anticipate anything other than UTSA winning in the Alamo Dome. Anytime I say these are going to be my keys.
See, but look, Army's 3-0.
Army, that is the one weird caveat, is they must be, because they're in the Army, they must like have the anti-voodoo dark magic shields when they walk through the threshold of the Alamo Dome. So I'm not giving you any good quality football information here. So I'm talking
I think
about
that's just all of us right now.
I'm just talking about dark magic and the Black Knights defying dark magic. But
maybe it's because they're shielded. They have armor.
They are, and even their logo has like kind of like the shield and the you know. So anyway, I think in all seriousness, I think that this will be a battle between a desperate football team that wants to make a bowl game and a football team that is playing their best football right now. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I just am at a loss, though, because everything goes out the window when you walk through the threshold of the Alamo Dome.
Yeah, it really does. And like you said, I think you put it perfectly when you said we're not giving any legitimate football analysis here. I'm sorry.
No,
I have no explanation as to what is happening in the Alamo Dome.
I have none. I was watching.
I'm searching for those answers.
It's actually absurd.
Now I'm pleading to the country.
Yeah, because I had to go back and watch the East Carolina game because I was doing the volleyball championship.
Yeah.
And I just kept checking the score, and I was like, I shouldn't be surprised, but I'm 44-3.
I looked up when it was 44-3, and I texted our group message from All American. I said, "What is happening in San Antonio?" It's been one of those days, and Army is going to have to go to the Alamo Dome and try and win to make it into a bowl game. Let's talk about what Army did last week against Tulsa as the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. Finally, they had multiple non-conference wins. They come back to defeat the Army Black Knights in surprising fashion. We didn't hear no bell, says Trey Lamb and the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. This was a fun game to watch all the way through, outscoring Army 12-0 in the fourth quarter to make it happen. But this was really a back-and-forth affair all the way throughout.
Well, the one thing Trey Lamb has been saying this entire season is that he wants to see his team play complementary football.
Yes.
And I think as the game progressed, you saw that happen, especially in that fourth quarter, because the offense was able to get back into that game, but they got back into that game because of big defensive plays. And so I think that this is what Coach Lamb has been pleading to his players to do the entire year. And I think this is such a huge morale booster for Tulsa. That's 2 weeks in a row now that they have wins.
It's 2 weeks in a row. They defeated Oregon State. Remember, we said they were really good against teams that were orange and black and OSU, but now they get the gold and black, and they got it done. I thought we saw some good fight from Army. Of course, they did take the advantage early. They had the ground game working, but you know who else had the ground game going?
The Golden Hurricane.
They definitely did. Richardson, carried the ball 28 times. That's a bell cow back.
Oof, yeah.
That is a bell cow. When you talk about Richardson, he had 203 rushing yards. He had a touchdown as well. He was all over the field. Of course, he was now the 23rd player in Tulsa Golden Hurricane history to rush for over 1,000 yards in a single season. But it wasn't just him. It was Richardson on one play. It was Allen on another play. And they had the ground game going, which sets up everything else. Baylor Hayes was able to throw with a lot of confidence as well. This was an incredible interception, by the way, over the top. And we talked about the secondary from Tulsa. They needed the secondary to make a play like that when you're down by 8 in the final 4 minutes of the game. So you combine the run game, the efficiency on offense, and then your defense making plays when they needed it the most. That's how Tulsa won this football game, and it was a fun one to watch.
Well, you see the games that Tulsa wins, Dominic Richardson is that bell cow back that you want to see. Every game that they've won, he's had a ton of yards, and so I think that is a big reason why they're able to have success. And then you talk about Allen as well. Even in that loss against FAU a few weeks ago, he ran a ton, and so I think utilizing both of those guys really helped Tulsa. And I think this is how you want to end your season if you're Trey Lamb, right?
Yeah.
Win against Oregon State, win against Army. Now you have a chance to beat UAB coming into this final week of the season.
We talked about the swagger of Trey Lamb early in the year and building momentum, right? That was what we wanted to see from Tulsa. They've done that. They're building momentum. They're showing that they're talented. They're not the most high-end talented team in the country, but there's a chance here, despite not going to a bowl game, they're going to play UAB this week, and they're going to have an opportunity to win their final 3 games of the regular season, which shows they are moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
You get a win over a power opponent earlier in the campaign in Oklahoma State. I don't care what Oklahoma State has done this season. There's still the resources are there, players are there, the talent level is there, and Tulsa beat them. So with all of that being said, you get that paired with 3 wins to cap off the regular season and send you into an offseason where you're able to recruit and hit the transfer portal and establish your system for a second straight year. I commend Trey Lamb for what they've done. They got to take care of business this week against the Blazers too, though.
And when you take a look, and one other thing to note about Tulsa too is their losses and their conference losses. All those teams that we just talked about that are competing to be in that championship game, that's who Tulsa's losses are to. And it's your first year. You don't have enough time to recruit. And so I think that's a interesting thing to note too, especially if they continue this season with 3 wins. But going back to this final game against UAB, when you take a look at this matchup, what are your keys for Tulsa?
Yeah, I think you got to run the football, right? Because you run the football, it sets up play action. If you set up play action, Baylor Hayes can do what he does best, and that's toss it around a little bit. Of course, they're 4-0 this season when you run for 200 yards, right? Like that's the most common stat that you could possibly find, because if you're running the football with that much of an impact, then you're going to win a lot of football games. One, because you're either salting them away, or because you're establishing time of possession and you're keeping your defense fresh and off the field. So for them to do that and to rush for 200 yards against Army and kind of give them a taste of their own medicine shows that they can do that against some of the best teams rushing-wise in the country. In the conference, rather. But then you got UAB this week, which is a team that's going to throw it around a little bit. UAB, they still haven't really settled on their quarterback situation. You saw a lot of Kitna. You saw a lot of Ryder Burton. You saw a lot of those guys in that last game. Get off to a hot start like you did, but you got to continue that hot start. So it's not even just get off to a hot start. You got to keep your foot on the gas against a team like like Tulsa, that has the ability to kind of win those battles at the line of scrimmage and win those battles for time of possession as well.
We got one more game to preview.
One more.
East Carolina, Florida Atlantic. I will be there in Boca. So
wow,
I know. I'm very excited.
That's fun.
After Thanksgiving, I can maybe
go
sweat
to
off
the
all the
beach?
food. No, I'm not.
It's only like 1.3 miles from the beach.
It's so close. Maybe I'll make a trip to the beach. I'm probably
just go put your feet in the sand.
Yeah, I haven't been to the beach in so long. But
it's because you're from Pennsylvania.
I know, and I live in Texas, so not a lot of beaches in Texas.
There are, though.
There are, but
just not close to here.
Yeah, I'm not driving there. I travel enough for work purposes. I don't think I'm going to drive to the beach. But East Carolina gets to visit the beach this weekend. They're coming off that loss.
Well, they're Pirates.
Oh.
Of course they're on the beach.
No, Pirates are in the water.
I mean, have you ever seen Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah, but they're doing all
Where
their
does
work.
Johnny Depp do his running? Where does Captain Jack Sparrow do his running?
I just thought
doesn't do it on the water.
I just thought of the GIF. You know exactly the one that'll be me running on the beach.
Okay, that's
getting
you.
my morning miles in on the beach.
There you go. Very good. Very good.
Anyway, we already digressed on non-football related things when we were talking about East Carolina before when they played in the Alamo Dome. So why don't we talk about some football in relation to East Carolina? I mean, we're just having fun, right?
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
East Carolina and Florida Atlantic. Both teams, you got to find a way to end your season on a high note. One, if it's kind of like what I just said about Tulsa for Florida Atlantic. You're building in the right direction. First year under Zach Kitley. You've got some playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. You want to see the progress all the way through. But you're going up against an East Carolina team that has an outside shot, even though it's probably at the thinnest of slimmest of margins, and they're going to have to make a statement.
So you're saying there's a chance?
There is a chance, but it's the slimmest of margins, and even if it is a slim margin, they're going to have to show out against Florida Atlantic.
Yes.
It's not going to be a close win that you barely squeak by. It's going to be one of those where you're going to have to prove to somebody that last week was a fluke.
Right.
So East Carolina, I expect them to fire on all cylinders and try and take advantage, especially coming off of the loss that they had against UTSA. I'm still flabbergasted at how it happened because it happened so quick, so suddenly, and there were just little mistakes, drops, not big turnovers and stuff until like the later parts of the game. There were drops, there were incompletions, overthrows. Hauser didn't have his best day. I anticipate them to lock in on the offensive side of the ball.
I agree. I think that's what I'm looking for from the Pirates in this game is just that rebound game where you're just even more dialed in to end this season on a high note and just to kind of prove to yourself too, like, hey, that team that you saw last week is not us. It was the dark magic in the Alamo Dome. But that being said, those aren't the only games this weekend. Let's take a look at the full schedule because we're circling all of them. Whew, okay.
3 right there.
Yep.
Of course, we've had the Thursday night Thanksgiving matchup scheduled for quite some time.
Yes. And then
it's circled.
Temple, North Texas, because it can determine some things. We talked about that one, and we just previewed East Carolina, Florida Atlantic. So some good American Conference football here.
No doubt about it. Now, you got
the second page.
Yeah. The second page, you've got, of course, the Rice and South Florida matchup. Charlotte against ranked Tulane. Oof. Tulane there, of course, trying to work their way into the American title game for the 4th straight year. And then UAB and Tulsa. I really do think Tulsa would both teams really want to end on a high note because you don't want to end with one conference loss.
Right.
One conference win. But Tulsa could win their final 3 games. There's a lot there riding on the line for the Golden Hurricanes. Some good stuff across the board. Speaking of Tulsa, though, you mentioned it. You were out down in South Florida. You were in Tampa for the American Conference Volleyball Championships. Tulsa came away with the crown, and we get a chance to catch up with the most outstanding player of that tournament today.
Aaliyah Smith to try and keep it going. Still match point Tulsa. It's short! For the first time since 2012, Tulsa is going back to the NCAA tournament, and they'll do it with their first ever American Conference Championship.
Tulsa wins the American, and we have the most outstanding player of the tournament with us now, Braden Hipp. Braden, welcome to All-American.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We are very excited that you're here, but before we ask you any volleyball-related questions, how exhausted are you after that grueling second set, grueling match that ultimately won you the conference championship?
That was probably the longest set I've ever played in my volleyball career, but, looking back at it now, it was worth it. We knew that it was going to be a fight from the beginning. We knew that they weren't going to give us many points, and it wasn't going to be an easy match whatsoever, so we were willing to go as long as it takes.
And that's the thing is it was going to be an uphill battle from the beginning. Of course, you finish as the number 3 seed in the regular season. You have a phenomenal campaign across the board, but then you've got to take down FAU, a team that was picked as one of the tops in the conference preseason. Then you take down a higher seed in South Florida in the semifinal, and then you go up against the regular season champion Rice Owls, who won their final 15 matches of the regular season, and they get to the final. It was a tough hill to climb, but at the end of the day, you and your team made it look easy, securing a volleyball championship for Tulsa. What was the biggest challenge for you guys throughout that campaign to get to the final and ultimately end up as champions?
Yeah. What we talked about every single day was just staying present. We didn't want to think about the end result. We just wanted to take it one day at a time, focus on our game on Friday, then on our game on Saturday, and then finally the game on Sunday. We thought that would be the best way to attack it. We couldn't, even like sets, we started talking about we have to focus 1 point at a time. We can't think about point 25 until we're there. And I think it allowed us to stay really present in the moment and ultimately get us our goal of winning the conference championship.
You brought it up there. It goes from point by point to game by game. That mentality was certainly the case all the way through. You needed that in both the semifinal match and in the final match, because you take set one and then you fall in set two and you're even at one set apiece going into the longer break. I mean, how important was it to reset in the break and then ultimately win the next two sets in each of those matches?
Yeah, it was really important. I mean, in those games, like, emotions can be high, but we took our 5-minute break and we just talked about like resettling, staying present, like I said, every single point. The game wasn't over until the game was over, and we just talked about staying present. We didn't want to take any moment for granted, so we were going to take the moment as it was.
I think one of the most impressive things for me when I was watching your team play was not only the play on the court, but the energy from your bench and just how locked in you guys seemed the entire championship. So where does that energy come from? Because it just looked like a different level even as you got into the later matches and sets.
Yeah, something we've really been talking about the last half of the season is every single person on this team has a role. We've talked about it all season, but we really wanted to start embodying it more once it came into postseason. And we talked about whether you're a person on the court, on the bench, whether you come in for 3 rotations or you play for 6, every single person has a very important role on our team, and it automatically allows us to succeed when every single person is 100% their best self. And we just really wanted to embody that the last half of the season. And I think we did an amazing job of it this weekend. And I mean, it turned out as perfect as we all could have imagined.
Of course, you've been around this Tulsa program for now 4 years, and you were really there from the beginning. What does it mean for you to bring a title to this program and to continue taking steps in the right direction and ultimately winning championships?
It means so much. I mean, we've been here since the very beginning. We've been building every single year, and I'm just so happy that Coach Ram came in and she trusted the process. She trusted all of us. And she's just been a great role model for all of us. And I'm just so grateful for her.
When I was doing some prep for your game, from what I read, your mom was also a pretty good volleyball player, correct?
Yes.
So what impact has she had on your career and this season in particular?
Yeah, so my mom was my high school coach and also sometimes my club assistant. She's had a tremendous impact on my volleyball career. From the moment I can remember, I have had a volleyball in my hand because of her. I've been in the volleyball gym. She was a coach in college, and then also, again, like I said, at my high school. She has taught me everything I know. She was the one that was like, you're going to be a setter. It's the most technical position. It's a leadership position. Like, you're going to excel here. So I'm so grateful for that. But she's ultimately always pushed me to be my best. She was never, ever easy on me. I think a lot of coaches' kids can relate with that. But she's always pushed me to be my best. And especially this season, I have really been focusing on staying present in the moment and just enjoying the good moments, but also enjoying the bad moments, since it would be my last season. And she's been extremely supportive and helpful through those moments. And I'm just so grateful to have her as my mother.
What was the biggest lesson that you learned and you had to fall back on during your time throughout this tournament to allow you to be successful?
Yeah. I just knew that it wasn't going to come easy. Like I said, it was going to be a dogfight every single point, every single match, and everything that we endured this whole season, the ups and the downs, are what prepared us to be the best for the conference tournament. So I was just reflecting on everything that happened in the past and knew that it was going to allow us to succeed at the end.
All right, so now you turn your attention to the NCAA tournament. You have an opportunity to go continue your season and play again. You'll be probably an underdog, depending on what the seeding looks like when it gets there. How do you overcome that and try and channel exactly what you did in the American Conference Championship and go win a championship in the NCAA as well?
I think a lot of people don't know who Tulsa Volleyball is, but we're really excited to show them. We've taken tremendous steps, and we just want to continue to grow this program to win NCAA games, and we can do that. And I'm just excited to show the whole country that Tulsa Volleyball is special, and we can do big things like that.
Ooh, I like that.
Ooh, that's a mic
good.
drop.
Very well done. It's like you've done this before once or twice. I think Maria maybe taught you a little bit while she was down there in South Florida. You came ready to mic drop on the way out of here. That was fantastic.
Well, Braden, we thank you so much for taking the time. We're going to watch you in that NCAA tournament. We can't wait to see you and Tulsa volleyball show the rest of the country what it's all about.
Thank you so much.
Awesome stuff as always. Man, what an exciting championship it was. Even looking back at the highlights, and I was watching live, you guys did a phenomenal job on the broadcast, but there were so many legitimate rallies and volleys and just back and forth, and the dramatic effect that was all the way throughout that tournament was so much fun. And it really, congratulations to Tulsa. That was a team that was under the radar, but still very, very talented and very good throughout the campaign, just overshadowed by what Rice did. That's all it was. When you go 15-1 in conference play, it's going to be overshadowing some of the other great teams in the conference. And Tulsa, just like she said there, you didn't know who they were initially, but now you got a little bit of a better idea.
We got 2 American teams who will be in the NCAA tournament, so that's very exciting to watch. I can't wait to lock in and see all of it.
Cannot wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, this week is also going to be a lot of fun. The holidays are here, and of course, Thanksgiving coming up on Thursday. So it gives us an opportunity to see a little bit of the best Thanksgiving meals. Of course, you've got your favorites. I've got my favorites, but we also know what your non-favorites are as well.
Navy and Memphis, I already mentioned it as well. That's on Thanksgiving, and I think I cannot think of a better way to finish eating my turkey and sitting down and watching Navy and Memphis football. I think that is going to be the highlight of my entire day. Don't tell my mom's cooking that. Because she'll get a little bit upset.
Wow. Mom's cooking, catching strays in the middle of March.
I know. It's a little too soon for that, but
I still can't believe you would do that. Even to this day, we are 9 months down the road, and I still can't believe you would just throw your mom's cooking under the bus.
My mom's cooking is fantastic, but I am very excited for Navy and Memphis. You can't tell me you're not excited to watch that game.
I'm super excited about it, but guess what? If your mom was cooking me a nice homemade meal, I'd be way more excited about that. So just a message to your mom, I would rather have the cooking. So let's be real about it all. But right. I am excited about Navy and Memphis. We talked about that this week.
Yeah, excited about Navy and Memphis. I'm excited about my mom's cooking too because I love Thanksgiving
Okay,
food.
There you go.
Okay.
So now 9 months later, you finally save yourself.
Yes.
Across the board. Now let's talk about some of those top Thanksgiving possibilities. Okay. I want you to give me your top 3 Thanksgiving items.
All right. We're going to start with number 3.
Okay.
Turkey. And I know turkey actually gets hate. Like some people don't
I love turkey.
I love turkey.
I'm here with you.
I love turkey because it just like sets the mood for like the rest of the day. And also you get your protein in.
It's the tone setter turkey.
Yeah. Ooh, alliteration. I like that.
Always.
Yeah, you get a little bit of protein in so you feel a little less guilty about all the other stuff that you're going to consume. And you're like, I hit my goal.
There's
Why
no
not?
reason to feel guilty. It's Thanksgiving.
It's Thanksgiving, which brings me to number 2.
Okay.
Baked corn.
Okay.
So I don't know if you ever had baked corn because I said this to some of my colleagues yesterday and they were very confused about what I was talking about.
Is this a northern dish?
It must be. I don't know.
Is this like from the Northeast?
Probably.
I don't know.
So it's like corn, but there's like cream in it almost, so it gives it like a sweet flavor.
So it's not a cream corn, but
no,
it's
just
it's a baked corn?
It's like creamed corn, but like baked and then like added little things that I don't know what my mom puts in it, but it tastes delicious, and I love to like have that like with the turkey. Like, my mouth is literally watering.
I've had corn in a lot of different ways and a lot of different entities: popped, creamed, buttered, whatever it is, on the cob, all sorts of different corns. I don't know if I've ever had baked corn specifically, but I'm down to try it. Sounds great to me.
Okay, I'll get the recipe. I'll make it and bring it in.
Okay, please do.
Right.
Or have your mom make it.
Yeah, but then it'd have to fly from Pennsylvania.
That's fine.
Okay.
I've had worse.
All right. I guess so. I don't know if I want to carry that through TSA.
Please do. That would be awesome. That'd be good content.
I'll vlog it as we go through. They're like, well, ma'am, we have to send this through again.
All right. I see your number
1 is pumpkin pie. My mom also makes an incredible pumpkin pie.
Yum.
And I love it so much that she makes me my own personal one.
Wow.
Because there was a year where I ate a whole pie by myself before Thanksgiving, and she got really mad at me. So now she makes me my own personal pumpkin pie.
My dad used to do that with banana pudding.
Ooh.
Yeah, my dad makes an incredible banana pudding. He would make me my own, like, pot of it, I guess. But yeah, no, pumpkin pie, goated, classic, fantastic. I'm going to go to number 3. I'm also going to go classic. How about some mashed potatoes?
Ooh.
Or down here in the South, we call them the taters. Where are them taters? Can you pass some of them taters over here? Mashed potatoes, fantastic as always. And then I'll go to the sweets too with number 2. How about a little bit of pecan pie? Pecan pie down south is what it should be.
It's not pecan pie.
It's pecan pie.
Pecan pie.
No,
Pecan pie.
pecan.
Please,
all day.
everyone agree with me in the comments. Pecan pie.
There are too many northern schools. They're going to agree with you.
Heck yeah.
Out of
We
here.
love
but
our pecan
it's
pie.
pecan pie.
Okay.
And I do love it. I love some pecan pie. But number 1 on the list, I actually mistyped this when I sent it to Zach. But I sent stuffing. But in my head, I was actually thinking green bean casserole.
Okay.
Because I love green bean casserole. I love stuffing too. But I meant to send green bean casserole, but I'm going to stick with it because stuffing deserves respect. It's the forgotten side out of all of the Thanksgiving meals. And guess what? It's still on everybody's table, and everybody gets a little bit of it. I love the stuffing, but I would rather have the green bean casserole. I just messed that up.
Never had green bean casserole.
Okay, so my green bean casserole
Right.
is your baked corn.
Yes.
And now we gotta share the sides. That's what Thanksgiving's all about. Coming
Yes.
together and sharing what we all love together, such as
Okay.
football, food, and family. So yeah, I love that.
And the
All
maybe
right.
a Memphis game.
It may be Memphis and Tennessee. Not better than your mom's cooking.
Not better than my mom's cooking, but something that might rival my mom's cooking.
What's that?
The plays from this week.
Ooh, can I start?
You could start.
Can I start? I'm going to
You-
start with number 5.
You sounded like a
Anything compares to the story.
Because I'm excited about starting with Wyatt Young from North Texas. You think you got him down 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage? Not so fast. He spins out of a tackle, breaks another tackle, throws a stiff arm. He could go all the way. Touchdown, Wyatt Young. He is a menace. He's putting up Randy Moss type of stat lines, and he's looking at the camera on Thanksgiving since it's Thanksgiving week. He did it against the Cowboys back in the day. This guy, Wyatt Young, does it against the Rice Owls this week in present day. And, of course, it was a memorable performance for him as North Texas puts up 42 unanswered.
Okay, I see why you're so excited about that one.
Yeah, that's why I was excited.
Yeah,
about
that was a lot of fun. I was watching it live, and I was like, gonna write this down. This could be a top play this week, and it made it.
That's an
there
incredible
at number
play.
5. How about we take a look at number 4?
it. Please do.
We talked about Tulsa volleyball already, the American Conference champions. Before that, they had to beat Florida Atlantic in the quarterfinals, and a big reason why. Pay attention to Lauren Patterson, Villavero. There she is. Bam. Look at that dig. Oh, my goodness. Watch it in slow motion. It looks even better.
This is even better. Oh,
my
yes,
goodness.
right there.
And it lands in for the point.
I was about to say, that's the other more impressive part about it.
Yeah.
Not only did it go over the net, but it finished in a kill.
Yeah.
That's a phenomenal point.
Yeah.
Across the board. Speaking
Love
of
it.
phenomenal points, let's go to top play number 3. We're going to the hardwood. How about Memphis taking on Wake Forest in one of these MTEs? How about Will Wharton? His first points as a Tiger come in emphatic fashion in the middle parts of the first half against a power opponent. Wharton getting the job done on the big-time play. That's why he's up to number 3. That's a good play. Good, solid play across the board.
I liked it. I liked it a lot. That's why it was number 3. Play number 2 has me really fired up.
Okay, what's play
We're
number
back
2?
on the football field. Tulsa. They beat Army in this one. But how about this? Lento Smith Jr. jumps up one-handed, pulls it down, falls over, still holds on to the football. And that's like a game-changing moment
It was
right
a
there.
huge moment.
Oh,
Look at even with like the Army cadets in the background, it just adds a little bit more to it. That's an incredible play. Somebody actually, when I was in the press box at the Cowboys-Eagles game on Sunday, somebody out of the Tulsa media came up to me and was like, hey, did you see this play? Because they watch All-American and they know I cover the American Conference. And I had not watched this game yet because of what we were doing on Saturday. And I said, wow, that needs to be a top play. I was
Yeah.
like, that's an incredible play. The interception in front of everybody on the road to help seal a win. Congratulations, Tulsa. You got it done. And you were a top play. But you know who is the top play of the week? Of course, you got to go back to the volleyball court after what was an incredible tournament across the board. Maria, you were here. I want you to tell me about this save, tracking this ball down like 45 yards into the backcourt to get there, and then they have to do it again.
And it's the same person. It's Maya
Yes.
Thomas. And wait, there's more. She does
Yes.
it again, diving forward. She was just everywhere on this play for South Florida. And then
unbelievable.
the Bulls get the point. They win the set. They win the match. It was insane. I was watching and I was like, man, how about this volley? I don't think it's ever going to end.
No, it was impressive. And she did everything she needed to. That was the no-fall zone for South Florida on that case. Really nice play. This part right here is my favorite.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, she had to track down. She was in St. Petersburg making the save there instead of being in Tampa with South Florida. I mean, that's an incredible play. And then she comes back to make another play, then back to make another play. She's all over the floor. Great stuff. That's the number one play of the week here on All-American.
I loved it. So much effort on
Some
that.
great plays this week.
Oh, there were a lot. And
Yeah.
we had such a variety, too. Like volleyball. We had some men's basketball because it's
Yeah.
crossover season. And then we have to have some football in there, right?
Of course. I mean, you
course.
had to have North Texas and Tulsa. They both had big wins this week. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, of course. And we're going to have more top plays next week on All-American, Maria. It should be a lot of fun. But this is it. I mean, this is the final week of the regular season. We are going to know answers,
Maybe.
which we haven't had.
We will actually have answers.
We will have answers next week, which is going to be great.
I always feel like we get closer to answers. And this week we're actually going to say, this is who's going to be in our champ game. This is where it's going to be. So you'll have to tune in next week to hear what we have to say about it. But for this week, I'm Maria Trivelpiece. That is Kyle Youmans. Another episode of All American done. We can't wait to see you again soon.